Hello friends, my name is Hasib Ansari from hifigocode.com. Thank you for joining me in this video today. I am back with a new video on the topic of Keycloak and its examples. And if you are new to this channel, don't forget to subscribe to this channel and hit the notification button if you want to get notified about the new videos uploaded to this channel. With that being said, let's have a short recap of what we did in the last video, and then we will jump to the current topic of today's session. So in the last video, we learned how to integrate a Vue.js application with Keycloak login, and we also saw the demo based on the Vue.js application, and we also tried to refresh the token. We saw the contents of the token in the tabular format, and then we also saw the logout session of this framework of this application. So that was in the last video, and in the current video we will see again a similar application also built on one of the most famous JavaScript framework, which is Angular from Google, and we will see how we can integrate a secure session with Keycloak to an Angular application, and we will also deal with the contents of the token to update the refresh token and also the logout, that how it works in an Angular application. So that is the goal of today's video. So without wasting any further time, let's get started. As you can see on the screen, I have built up an Angular application very similar to our Vue.js application, and the structure looks the same. And if I try to refresh, it doesn't have any integration to Keycloak. It does not redirect me to a Keycloak login. And also right now the fields over here are empty and this button doesn't work at all. So it's just a very static application having no functionalities. And the goal, as I said, is like to integrate this application via Keycloak. And then when we come back to this application, we should see our details over here with the filled refresh token and the filled update access token and the refresh token. And on the button click, we should update both the tokens, and the logout should log us out from this application. So how to do it, we will be learning that thing in this video. So first of all, what we need, as always, as I said, we need a client for this application in Keycloak. So I will quickly go to my Keycloak admin console, and in the admin console I will create a client for this application. So I will name it as hifigocode Angular. I will save it, and you can also give the name and description like you want. It's not a necessary or mandatory field to fill in, but what we need to make sure is like the access type is public. So we should fill the valid redirect URIs. So I will make it as a wildcard right now, and the origins also as a wildcard. And I will save the settings. So there is pretty much nothing we would require more to set up the client for Angular application. And then I'll come back to my web application, and then we need to fill, or we need to configure our source code in order to set up all the Keycloak contents and make sure and let the source code knows where the Keycloak is. For that, I have already set up a repository of the Angular application. So everything, you can find it over here. It's ready to run. So you can have the working example from here. And in this course, or in this session, I will refer to this repository or this example. So I will go back to the application. So let's see how the Angular source code looks like over here. So this is my Angular setup for this application, and as you can see, I have two components. One is the home component and the other is the logout component. So if I go back to my application, and on the path logout, I should have this logout screen with this home button, which I cannot see. Yeah. So again, back to the configuration. So now for the integration itself, we would require two dependencies in order to integrate this Angular application to Keycloak. So I will quickly install these two dependencies from the npm. So I come here, I close the application, and then I say npm I keycloak-js and save it. And the other dependency is called as keycloak-angular. So these two dependencies are very important in order to integrate an Angular application to the Keycloak. So once I have it, now I can configure my Angular application. So I will go to the environment, and here I will pass the Keycloak information as the environment parameter. So I have this already in my repository, so I will quickly go back to my GitHub repository. So it is this piece of code I need. I come here and I paste it. So this one I need to import it from the keycloak-js dependency. So here I have the possibility of quick fix it, and I imported this class from there. And then I will pass it as a parameter called as keycloak-conf. So this one, I can use this parameter throughout as an environment throughout the scope of this application, which will give me the configuration of the Keycloak. So after setting this file, we can go in the app folder to this app.module.ts file. And over here, we need to import some configurations from the core Angular library, and also we need to set up this providers field. So first of all, I will quickly import what I need from the core Angular. So it is called as app initializer, and then I will quickly create a function which will initialize my Keycloak. So let's name this function as initialize Keycloak, and the parameters I can say anything, and the type of this will be Keycloak service. So this one from Keycloak Angular. So this one should be the type of this parameter. And once we have this, we will have a return method which should return us a keycloak.init, and this should take some parameters. So I will quickly say as config parameter will be from the environment. So I need to import the environment over here and Keycloak. So this Keycloak should correspond to this one, but we have set it in the environments.ts. So this one will initialize our Keycloak object with the configuration that we set up in the environment. And now we will use this as our app initializer provider. So over here, we need some parameters to fill, and the first one is provide. And the provide will be the initializer that we just imported. And after the provide, we will have to set the use factory, and the use factory is the method that we just created. After this, we will also need to set multi, telling this provider it's a multi provider, so we will set it as to true, and the dependencies we need to set it up. Yes, yeah. And over here I will need the keycloak service as the dependency. So here I have some typo. So basically what will happen when the application first initializes the whole application, it will check this app initializer whether it has to initialize some settings or not. But in this case, like in the normal application, it will just go forward and it will bootstrap this app component. But here we have some interceptor in between, which will see that okay, we have some mechanisms to follow which needs to initialize keycloak, and this will in turn will say that okay, the initialized keycloak is asking for an authentication, and thus our application will forward us to the authentication page before going to the app component. So this is all from the initialization part. Now we will need to fix our home page. So I will quickly go to the home component and I open the component.ts file. So if we see our application on the home page, so we need to, from the keycloak authentication, we need to fill this table with the token details. We need to fill this text area with the access token, and this text area with the refresh token. And then we need also a method to update our token over here, and also a method to log out the session of this keycloak for this application. So on our home component, we need some methods which will import from the dependencies. So I will quickly go back to the source code, and I have already this thing done in the repository, so I will quickly go also back to the repository and search for the home component. So component.ts. So here I have this method for the logout. This one is for the updating the refresh token, the access token, and this one on the initial ng on init method, I am passing down the token or the user attributes to fill the table as well as the text areas with this token and the refresh token. So I will copy this methods over here and I can bring it to my component here. So it needs the initialization of this one, so I will go back and simply copy this. And I think I deleted the constructor, so I need a constructor which also brings the parameter keycloak service. Yeah, then I need to import this. So this looks good. So what we are doing with this is, when the app initializes, we are taking the parameter of the keycloak, which is consisting our token, and then on the init of the page we are storing the user profile in this object variable, the token in the token variable, and the refresh token in this variable. And during the button click of the logout button, we are again calling from the same object the logout method of the keycloak, and then tell it where to redirect. So in this case, we will, after logout, the user should redirect to the logout page of this application. And there is one more part, that this logout page should not be a protected page. It should be a free public page so that the user can see it after logout. So that one also I will cover it in the AuthGuard topic right now. And then we have another method which is to update our access token, and this one again from the object that we passed it down, we use the update token method, and we use this -1 to force push the updated token. And yeah, so again we are just replacing the variable again with the new token, and then also we are replacing the refresh token in the text area with a new token, refresh token. So this one we have it in the component. Now we need to pass it down into the HTML file like what we see on the front end. So I will go to the HTML file of this, and also I will go back to the repository and in the HTML file. So in this application especially, I am iterating over the user object. So if I go back to here, I am getting some attributes in this variable, and in the Angular there is a possibility where I can iterate over an object using ng for, and then I will directly replace it or represent it as in a tabular format. So for that I don't need this table. I will just remove it, and I will get it from here, from the repository. So in the repository I have this user object which should be the same as this component, this variable name, and I say, and it comes with this ng for directive which makes or which tells the Angular application to iterate on this object, and I say I save it for this one. So let me say it as user attribute, and then I have to replace it over here and also over here. So I iterate on this object and I save the first element of this object in this variable, and it is a type of key value. Then on the first column I save the key of that single attribute, so user attribute key, and in the second column of my table I save the value of that attribute. So I will have it in the tabular format as a key and value. So unlike the applications before where I was giving the value each at one column, in this time I can just iterate and dynamically prepare the columns for the each attributes in the user object. So this was it from the table side. Now I have to fill the text areas with the access token and the refresh token. So this is also, as we have already saved it in the init options as the variable token, we can, instead of empty, we can have it as token. So exactly the name what we have in the component, and here we can have it as refresh token. Yeah. So I will quickly check whether it is the same what we have here. Yeah, so token and refresh token. Once we have this, now only what we need is on this button, on this to button, the functionality or which method. So we have the method, we just need to call it on the click. So we have this two method, one is update and one is logout. We need to call these two methods from each of the button over here. And in Angular we have this form to make on click events. So I will just take it from here and bring it here and make sure that this is the update. And I forgot this to copy. And below I need to call logout. So this will prepare my front-end application and will try to update the token, the token attributes. So right now if I go to my application, so I need to start my application first. And let's see if we have any errors over here. It will take some seconds to start the application, and by default an Angular application starts on the port 4200. Yeah, so once it is compiled successfully, we should see something that it is listening on port this one, and you can open this one on your browser. So I will go quickly again to my browser, I will refresh, and we see nothing over here. And if I go to the logout, also we see nothing. And this is what I was expecting, because we have configured the initialization of the Keycloak, we have set up the front end, but we need one more thing in order to tell the Keycloak, the Angular application, that out of the components that we have, which component is protected by a Keycloak and which is not. And as I said before, that we need to keep this logout component as a public component, so it should not be protected. Only the home component should be protected. So in Angular we have a concept called as guard, and we will also use the routing modules. So here I have the path or the route that I need to set in the Angular application. So if it is nothing in the path, I go to the home component, and if I have a path after slash as logout, then I go to the logout component. And in the library that we installed in this application, so Keycloak comes with a KeycloakAuthGuard, and we need to extend that AuthGuard with our own customized guard. And over there we will see, or we will say that what should happen if a path in the routes is protected by our AuthGuard, and what should happen when it is not. So make sure that when you initialize your first Angular application, it is having the routing module also included. So then it will be easier for you to set up the whole thing. So I'll quickly create a guard for our application. So I'll stop the application and then say ng generate guard, and do it like this. I will skip the test for it. And once it is generated, it will ask me for which interface. I will always have to select can activate, and then I should see a guard folder in my app directory. So if I go here, I see something like this, and I have to override, or I have to extend this one. So this is my AuthGuard, is my AuthGuard, customized AuthGuard, and I can extend it, this customized AuthGuard. So instead of implements can activate, I will say extends Keycloak or KeycloakAuthGuard. So I remove this, and it will ask me to implement some methods. So is access allowed is coming from the KeycloakAuthGuard, and again I will quickly go back to my repository where I have it already set up. So if I go to app guard and here, so I extend it as the KeycloakAuthGuard, and from the constructor I will just copy it and bring it over here. So I need to import this classes. Yeah, and then it says that is access allowed. So from this method we will get a boolean, which is whether the user is authenticated or not. So it checks the boolean, and if it is not authenticated, the Keycloak object will initiate the login method which is simply redirecting the user to the login screen of the Keycloak. If the user is not authenticated, so any route which is having this AuthGuard activated will always go through this method. And this method checks whether the user is authenticated or not, and based on the authentication boolean, it will decide whether the user can access the component or the user has to go through the authenticated process. So this is the guard or the auth guard that is set up in the Angular application, and in order to activate for a path is very simple. We need to go to our app module TS, no, the app routing module TS, and here with our base application we had these two paths. So over here I will just make it an extended form and I say can activate, and the guard name I have to give, so I think it goes inside the bracket. So our guard name is AuthGuard, yes, and so I want my home component to be protected, and that's why I will put this only in front of the path or the route of the home component. I want this component to be a public one, and hence I will not put this can activate AuthGuard in this path, because when the user finishes his login session, he should see this page, logout page, and if the logout page is also protected, what will happen when the user logs out, comes and the page is redirected to this logout component, and when it is protected, the redirection will again go back to the login page, and this should not happen in a user flow. So I will not protect this page by adding this thing over here. So far it looks good, and now we should able to demonstrate our application. So I will quickly run the application. So this is taking a bit more time. So this will happen only for the first building process. So I forgot to save this file. So I'll quickly come here and save it. And it should rebuild my application. So hot deployment kind of thing. And if I go to my application and I refresh, I see nothing. Let me see if there is any error coming in the console, and it says application module, no provider for Keycloak service. Again, let me check the setting, the initialization, app initializer, and quickly check the application over here. So yeah, we missed the imports for KeycloakAngular module. So I will add that quickly in the imports. And this one goes like this. And I import this Angular module, and let's see if it helps with our application. Yeah. So once I imported it, I can see the logout page, and when I come to the logout page, I don't have any Keycloak login session. And when I just come to this route, I am redirected to the Keycloak login. I give the username, the password, and I am back to my home page. Now this time it looks better with the table filled in with my user details. So forget about this one because it is just bringing some unparsed attributes from the token. But this one is the email of the user. It says the token also has whether the email is verified or not, the first name, last name, and the username. And here we have also set up the access token and the refresh token. now we have also have the method set up with the update token. So if I click, it should change, implying that on every click I'm using the refresh token to update this access token. And finally, we will see the logout functionality. So once I click the logout, it should redirect me to the logout page. So once I log out, it redirects me to this page, and because it shouldn't have any session, I should again, if I go back to the normal URL, it should take me to the login page. So I have the link over here somewhere, and I click here. So I see again back the login page. So that means the user flow of this application is good, and we have successfully integrated an Angular application with Keycloak login. So friends, this was pretty much it from this video about integrating the Keycloak with Angular application. And to be honest, if you need to learn more about the Angular, there is an official documentation by Google, and you can get more details and more insights about the directives that it uses, like the ng4 that we have used in this application and the clicks. So this is a bit more detail in the application side from the Angular framework, and if you want to know it more, please refer to the official documentation. I will also put the link in the description below. And other than that, if you have any questions, any feedback, please use the comment section below, and I will try to answer them as precisely as I can. So friends, if you like this video and my videos in this channel, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel and share it with your friends. And if you want to get notified about the new videos, please also hit the notification button. So friends, I hope I will see you in the next session, and till then, stay blessed, stay tuned, and thank you all.